Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading to Mount Rainier National Park. That Washington state icon. It's got the glaciers, the wildflowers, and, well, as you've been looking into, some seriously stunning fall colors.
Yeah, it's a special place. Even for, people who really know their fall foliage. We're not exactly talking about, like, massive forests all changing color at once, you see.
That's what caught my eye in your research, is like Mount Rainier's fall show is a bit more, well, intimate, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Picture this. Bright pine maples, those fiery huckleberries clinging to the slopes, and then you've got these incredible golden larches. And all of that set against, well, a backdrop of evergreen forests. Oh, and often you even get a dusting of early snow on those peaks.
Early snow, that's a twist. I always picture fall colors with that, that classic autumn sunshine. It's amazing how Mount Rainier gives you this kind of layered seasons experience.
It's all down to those unique microclimates the mountain has. See, when you climb Mount Rainier, the temperature really plummets, and that means the fall colors, they start popping up higher first and then kind of sweep down as the cooler air moves in.
Oh, wow. So it's like a wave of color just cascading down the mountainside. That's incredible. Hikers could practically chase after those peak colors. So what kind of time frame are we talking here for this natural phenomenon?
Well, you usually see the most vibrant colors from late September through October. Early October is often seen as the best time, especially for those lower elevation colors. That's when the huckleberry bushes really go all out, turning this intense crimson that reflects so beautifully in the park's lakes and ponds.
Okay, the huckleberries have my attention now, but I have to ask about these golden larches you mentioned. They sound almost magical.
They're pretty special. They're what we call deciduous conifers, which is a bit of a botanical oddity. See, most conifers, they stay green all year round, but larches, they change color and shed their needles in the fall.
Wait a second, deciduous conifers? That seems, I don't know, kind of backwards. I always thought conifers were the ones that stayed green no matter what.
You're right, most do. But larches, they like to do their own thing, and when they do, oh, it's a sight to see. Around November, right when you think the fall color show is over, bam, these larches become these beacons of gold against all that deep green of the evergreens.
Wow. So even if you miss those peak October colors, the larches are like a whole second act. That's amazing.
Nature always has a few tricks up its sleeves. And for photography, let me tell you, the contrast between those golden larches and the evergreens, it's stunning.
Okay, you've convinced me. Photograph golden larches at Mount Rainier. That's going straight on my bucket list. But let's get a little more into the science behind these vibrant transformations. I know you got some fascinating stuff there.
Of course. We usually associate fall with all those warm colors, right?
Yeah.
But those colors, they're actually there in the leaves all year. They're just hidden by the dominant green pigment, chlorophyll.
Right, chlorophyll, the plant world's powerhouse, harnessing that sunlight for energy. But as the days get shorter, the temperatures drop.
Exactly. The chlorophyll starts to break down, like a natural countdown to winter. And as that green fades, the hidden pigments, the carotenoids, which give us those yellows and oranges, and the anthocyanins responsible for those brilliant reds, well, they finally have their moment to shine.
It's like nature's grand unveiling, revealing this hidden layer of beauty. And at Mount Rainier, this unveiling, it happens in these stages, right?
Yeah.
Starting high up and then slowly making its way down.
Exactly. Each elevation band, with those slight differences in temperature and moisture, well, it creates its own little microclimate. And those microclimates influence not just when those colors change, but also how they develop.
So we've got these microclimates essentially painting the mountain with this unique palette. But those specific trees and shrubs, they have to play a role too, right, in creating those amazing colors.
Oh, absolutely. That's where those huckleberries come in. They just love those higher elevations at Mount Rainier. And their leaves, well, they've got these anthocyanins that pack a real visual punch.
Visual punch, huh? You've got to tell me more.
Well, picture this. These particular anthocyanins, they reflect light in this way that creates this almost like luminous red, especially when the sunlight hits them just right. It's why those huckleberry patches, they almost seem to glow, particularly when they're against those evergreen backdrops or when they're reflected in those super clear mountain lakes.
Wow, I can just imagine that reflection. It's more than just a splash of color. It's like the whole landscape turns into this living, breathing painting. And speaking of paintings, I know a lot of photographers, they head straight for Mount Rainier, especially in the fall. Any spots that really stand out in your research?
Paradise Meadows is a classic for a reason. I mean, picture this. Colorful meadows, and then bam, framed by that iconic peak of Mount Rainier, often with a little dusting of snow. It's truly a sight. And photographers, they love capturing those reflections I was talking about.
It does sound like something straight out of a postcard.
Right. And for a more panoramic view, the Nature's Peak Loop is where it's at. It gives you these amazing views of the valleys and the peaks all around, and they're all decked out in their fall colors. You really get a sense of just how massive and grand Mount Rainier really is from there.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list. Paradise Meadows, Nature's Peak Loop. Got it. But seeing fall colors at Mount Rainier, it's got to be about more than just the view, right? What about people who want to, really get out there, be in it?
Hiking during this time of year is amazing. The air is so crisp. The light has that warm golden thing going on. And you might even hear the crunch of a little early snow under your boots as you go up. But just like any mountain adventure, you got to be prepared.
Absolutely. Safety first. What are some things our listeners should keep in mind if they're planning a fall hike at Mount Rainier?
Weather up there, well, it's unpredictable. You can have sunshine one minute, and next thing you know, clouds roll in, or even a sudden snow flurry. Layering your clothes, that's key.
Yeah.
And always, always check the forecast before you even think about heading out.
Solid advice. Now, you mentioned the snow underfoot. We've talked about layers, checking the forecast. But what about the trails themselves? I mean, are they even accessible with that early snow on the ground?
Many of them do stay open, but, conditions can be all over the place. It's always smart to double check with the park rangers. They'll have the latest updates on closures, hazards, all that. They're really the best resource for planning your trip. They can give you tips on which trails match your experience and the conditions and everything.
That makes sense. So we've covered the visuals, the hiking, being prepared. But listening to you describe it all, I'm thinking about all the other senses that come into play. That crisp air, the sound of leaves crunching.
It really is a multi-sensory experience. Just imagine the leaves rustling as you're walking, maybe a little wind in those golden larches.
And you can't forget that fall forest smell, that mix of damp earth and evergreen.
Exactly. Those sensory details, they're easy to miss, but they add a whole other dimension to it all. It's about really being there in the moment, taking the time to appreciate the small things that make the season special.
It's funny. I've been to places like Mount Rainier in the fall, but I often get so caught up in getting that perfect picture that I forget to just, stop and really experience it, to actually listen to the wind, feel the air.
It's easy to do. We're all about capturing the moment these days, but sometimes the best moments are when you put the camera down and just, be there.
You're right. It makes you wonder, what else are we missing when we're so focused on the visual? What about just the sound of leaves crunching underfoot, especially with that early snow you mentioned?
Oh, it's a whole symphony of sounds. You've got
Right.
the leaves, the frost, a little wind, maybe rustling through those larches, maybe even like a distant elk call if you're lucky.
Now, that's something you don't forget. It's funny how those little sensory things, a sound, a smell, they can take you right back.
They really can. That's the power of actually getting out there, experiencing nature with all your senses. It's not just about what you see, it's about everything.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Mount Rainier's fall colors, it's clear this is more than just a pretty picture. It's a chance to, I don't know, really connect with nature, use all your senses, and appreciate how fleeting it all is.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds us that nature's always changing. What you experience one fall might be different the next.
So true. The colors, the snow, even the sounds of the forest, they can change year to year. It's a new experience every time.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it, right? That element of surprise,
Mm.
knowing nature's always got something new to show us if we just open ourselves up to it.
It really does make you see that saying, every leaf a masterpiece, in a whole new light. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to get out there and experience the magic of Mount Rainier this fall. And not just with your eyes, but with all your senses.
And remember, whether you're a seasoned hiker or just someone who appreciates, the beauty of nature, there's something truly special about seeing those fall colors transform that incredible landscape.
Beautifully said. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into all the amazing things that are out there.